We have got a great interview for you today. I am working with Brian Bazely, who is the CEO and founder of Driverseat. It's a really unique transportation industry opportunity in franchising. You're not going to want to miss this.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profit Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Shin.
All right, Brian, welcome. I'm excited to have you on the show.
Hey,
Your
Don.
background and experience going all across North America and a really cool business model. We're just really excited, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show with me today.
Yeah, listen, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Hey, I'm going to just introduce you real quick, and then you can build on it if you want for a second or two. But let everybody know that, Brian is the CEO and co-founder of a franchise in the transportation industry. Been in business since 2012. You focus on the franchisee's success. I love to hear that. And growth and development of your teams. You're based out of Canada, but you're all over North America. You're an award-winning franchise. We love to get people that know what they're doing. So award-winning franchise, top ratings by your franchisees. Under your leadership, you've grown across North America, and you're opening, if I got this right, you're opening a location every 5 days. And I'm going to shut up after that. That's a great start. So anything to add to that, or you want to tweak that at all, Brian, please, 30 seconds, a minute or so, and then we'll dive into some Q&A.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a wonderful run, and we've got so much to be thankful for. But the growth right now, both at the franchisees revenue level and with the growth of new units, is just it's really outstanding. So we're having some fun with it. We're kind of bursting at the seams at the office. There's in the office I occupy, there's 5 of us in that one office at this point because we're just literally out of space. But those are good problems to have. But this is all about really a couple things. It's all about having some fun and developing some great franchise partners, and all about being part of their journey of success. And so that's the part we're passionate about, and that's what gets us up in the morning and has us want to get to work early.
That's awesome. And I love that franchisors don't just talk about their growth in units and how many more storefronts or units they're opening. I love that franchisors, or I love the franchisors that look at your franchise partners' growth and their revenue growths. When I was a master franchisee, that was the award. Our top awards were always given on franchise
Sure.
development and growth there, but also how well are your franchise partners doing? So I'm glad you're one of those franchisors.
Yeah, we're fixated on that for sure.
The first question I've got for you, Brian, is that when you were contemplating starting a franchise or turning your business into a franchise, what was your vision? And then you've been in business 10 plus years. Has it changed at all?
Yeah, two great questions, actually. We've been in business just under the 10-year mark. We're going to be celebrating 10 years next month. This is a really odd and reverse story. We decided to, and when I say we, it's my brother and I who co-founded the business together. We decided to build a franchise because we wanted to work with really bright franchise partners and people who are entrepreneurial and wanted to build a good business for them and their family. And then we said, okay, now what industry should we do, and what business should we do?
Oh, wow.
And so I think in my business school days, every professor would have told me that's not the way to build a good business, but we don't care. And so we literally spent just under 12 months determining what was going to make us happy, the types of things that we wanted to do. And it actually wasn't tied to the service at all. It was actually just tied to our governance and our core values and what we wanted to do. And so we decided we wanted to do something that was a little bit out of the ordinary, something that wasn't a Me Too business. We wanted to do something where we could positively benefit the community. We wanted something that was scalable for our franchise partners, and something that we could scale out for our team here at the office. So the Driverseat business was born. Neither one of us had operated a transportation business before.
Okay.
We'd never worked in the transportation business before. But that's how we kind of developed and built out that business. We then launched a single location that my brother opened, and started to head up, hired a bunch of chauffeurs, started running the business, and 3 months later we franchised that to
Wow.
our very first ever chauffeur. And he went on to open the second location. Then we continued to open locations and franchise them. And now here we are. He's relocated to Kitchener-Waterloo, which is where our office is. He relocated there a short time after we started opening, and we started franchising out the business to others. So yeah, it's a little bit in reverse, perhaps, as to
Yeah, it's funny 'cause I usually counsel people. I say when you're looking at the FDD, the franchise disclosure document, I say look for at least one of two experience bases in the ownership. Do
yeah,
they have their industry experience, and then do they have franchise experience? So
yeah.
you're killing me with one.
Yeah, I know. And I had a lot of franchise experience. I came from a corporate business background, but when I decided as a corporate executive in my 30s, I decided I wanted to work locally. I decided to open up franchise, which I did, and then
Oh,
became
good. Okay.
involved in franchising for a number of years. But yeah, it was just a different approach to it. And then our original business concept that we turned into an actual business was to chauffeur people. So this was really kind of a designated driving, sending a chauffeur out to drive a customer's car for them. And
Oh, okay.
that's how we launched the business, knowing we'd want to move into the shuttle business, which is mid-sized commercial shuttle vans and driving people that way. And but the shuttle business was very highly regulated. We had no experience in it. So we thought we'd better launch the chauffeur piece first. We launched every franchise with a van for marketing purposes, but also because we knew when to flip that switch, we needed to start to build out fleets of vehicles. And so, yes, the business has changed a lot. Heading into 2015, 2016, we started doing shuttling. Into 2017, 2018, we became a really big shuttle player. And then through COVID, the shuttle business absolutely exploded. We did a ton of business revenue and growth, but the chauffeur business did not, of course, right?
Yeah.
Because people didn't want others in their car. And so we are essentially a shuttle brand. We do a little bit of chauffeuring still, but we're essentially a shuttle brand. And most of the growth is actually tied into our shuttle business. So doing things like weddings and airport runs and charter tours.
Awesome. So you mentioned regulations, and I would assume even here in the States, 50 states, you're going to get some differences there. But were there any other challenges? What did you as you started to franchise? What was maybe one of your top couple of challenges? Because again, we have our audience is emerging brands, founders like yourself 10 years ago, and if I can help them avoid, some of the pitfalls and the problems. So what were some of the challenges that you maybe faced?
Well, listen, Don, for your audience, I mean, I could write a book on the mistakes we've made. And so, yeah, I think I think like many, we underestimated the cost of what we're going to have to invest into the business in order to really get it to profitability quickly and get the franchisees to profitability. We self-funded this business, and to date, we still haven't taken a penny of investment money. There's lots of people banging on the door, of course, but we haven't done that. And so that creates its own set of challenges. It's a good problem to have because it means you are able to self-fund, and the balance sheet looks really good as a franchisor.
Yeah.
But I think most of the people I talk to, I'm sure the most people you talk to, might not understand the scope and the amount of investment they need to put in order to actually build out the proper support network. And so we certainly made that error. And that included things like technology, because when we first started, the chauffeurs were out with paper receipts and collecting cash and putting it into an envelope and this type of thing. And so we had to build a mobile app, of course.
Yeah.
Even 10 years ago, that was super important. And so we built a very rudimentary, very basic mobile app, which looked really, really pretty to the customer. But it was actually, that was lipstick on a pig, because the back end was just simply texting us, and we had to write down stuff and put it onto an Excel sheet. And so I think from a mistake standpoint, especially for an emerging franchisor, I would say that we made the mistake of not understanding completely all the funding that was required. We recovered quickly from that, and we're able to invest some additional monies. But not everyone has the luxury of being able to do that.
Right.
And I would say the mistake that we didn't make, but we could have done better with it. But a lot of franchisors make. I think you just have to be so fixated on the franchisee's top line revenue. And we don't have one morning at this office where we're not talking about that. We don't have one. We celebrate every sale. There's a crazy big bell that goes on here, and when franchisees land a new customer, a new contract, etc., we're ringing the bell. We have franchise owners that have landed 7-figure contracts, so big contracts, and we celebrate those ones. Of course, those are just such a great turning point for this business. But we have other ones who've landed something that might be very special. It might be a smaller sale, but it might be a child with anxiety problems who our chauffeurs are able to help get to school. And so we like to celebrate those things too. There might not be the same level of money in it, but it's still a big sale. And we just have to keep always celebrating the wins, right? We have to celebrate their revenue, have to celebrate their wins. We celebrate the earliest sale in the history of a franchise, the greatest amount of revenue before they open the doors, because we always create revenue before they open the doors. So we celebrate all of those things. And we're known to be a little bit goofy and a little bit funny with it. And so there's no shortage of crazy videos of us doing stuff at the office. So
I love your, I follow you. I love your posts and things, LinkedIn and stuff. So this folks that are watching, this is definitely a culture that likes to have fun. And you said that earlier, and I think a lot of new, not a lot, some new emerging brands don't think that much about establishing a culture in particular in who they're selecting in the early days, and being sure that you get, as I like to call them, real brand ambassadors for you. You know, your first dozen franchises, you want them to be excited people, that because they're going to be your first validators as you sell the franchise. So you said a couple of other things that were really important to me that does come up when I'm interviewing founders, and that is the capitalization of your franchise, the monies that you needed to make, to go to market. And that does come up. And I'm just curious if you had a number or a thought on a number that it ended up costing you, once you look back and figured it, added it all up.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely different for everybody. Every franchise will have a different level of investment. We were, at the time, and we still are, fixated on extraordinary efficiency, and so we try not to waste dollars or time or resources on anything. And so our marketing spend is very efficient. Our spend on resources is very efficient. We utilize software and technology wherever possible in order to replace something that might be a bit more expensive. So I think it certainly is, it's going to be different for every group. We launched in the U.S. Many years into our launch for Driverseat. The U.S. is more expensive to franchise in, for sure. It's a bigger market, but having to register in several of the states and then file in those states, et cetera, it just created its own level of complexity that way. And then, of course, the accounting practices in the U.S. are that much different. So we're super glad we did it. It was the right thing for us to do. I wish we hadn't done it just before the pandemic. We should have probably. But that's okay. So I think a lot of it's going to be tied to, if you take a look at, there's the legal aspect, there's the technology aspect, and then there's the cost of support. We were able to perhaps minimize the cost of support through a couple of means. One is, again, we just stayed ultra efficient in what we did from that standpoint. But the second thing was, I owned other businesses, and we were able to use shared resources. So some of our legal administrative, that we could do that. So our number probably isn't as clear or crisp or clean or concise as others might be. But I think for any franchisor, you have to look at the technology spend. It's always going to cost more than you think it's going to cost. The legal spend is just super critical, and you want to set up your franchisees for success. And what that actually means is making sure that you're set up for success, and that you're not being held in some sort of litigation or other challenges around your franchise disclosure documents. And so they can be expensive, and you just need to spend the money on that. And then the third piece is around support and the support bodies. And so It's pretty simple with 5 to 10 franchise locations. It's pretty simple to support them as a founder or a couple of co-founders and perhaps an admin person.
Yep.
But as time goes on, you've got to be prepared to grow that piece of it. And I think, Don, you probably have heard, there's lots of generic numbers because everyone's are different, but being at 70 locations, 75 locations often means royalty self-sufficiency. And it's an interesting number because it's going to vary from business unit to business unit, but it's a good number to use. It's a good number to look at, which kind of means you got to look at how long it takes to get there. There's not a lot of franchise unit companies, as that are over 100, right?
That's right. Yeah, I think it's like 96% or something. Exactly. 92% are not over 100. Yeah,
no, that's exactly it. And so then when you start to think about it, you think, well, that means the majority of them don't ever make royalty self-sufficiency, which means they're relying on other things. And so I think having perspective around that and understanding those stats is pretty important.
Yep. That's great. You've emphasized the technology, which is another thing that I tell people to look at. If I'm working with a private client as a consultant or a broker, that's one of the things I have them look at. So I think it's brilliant that you're doing that, because I use the General Motors, the old Oldsmobile commercial that used to say, it's not your grandfather's Oldsmobile, when Oldsmobile was trying to rebrand themselves. And that's what I tell people. If you're looking at a franchise concept that is not focused on using technology in their model, then you're buying your grandfather's franchise, so to speak.
I love that.
I think it's brilliant. Let me shift gears a little bit. Let me just do this before I forget to do this quick, so that people know how to reach you, Brian. Talk about some of the highlights. As you look at your business over the last almost 10 years, what do you think were some of the, just the big moments, the success and highlight moments?
Oh man, I don't. Can we do this in 25 minutes? I doubt it. There's so many exciting things, and I mean, I'll start with the fact that every single year we have won recognition with the Canadian Franchise Association as being one of the top support brands in Canada. And when I say that that's a highlight, it's because this is a statistically valid system and approach of franchisees voting on the franchisor. And every time we receive that, it's just this huge pat in the back that we don't need, but it's so exciting for the staff. It just shows that we're doing all that we need to do. And then in 2019, we won the top franchisor in Canada award. In 2021, we won that one again. But in 2020, interesting enough, we won the award for being the top diversity and inclusion brand. And it was a really big moment for us because it's always been such an important piece, but in today's world with some of the crazy news that goes on, having organizations which are leaders and stewards with respect to diversity and inclusion is just so important. And so we took a lot of pride in that, not from a standpoint of what we did, but really what the whole team as a group did, because it took a team to make that happen. And so we are proud of those accomplishments as a group, because it takes the entire group in order to do that. And our team gets super excited, including our head office support team and our franchisees. But there's been a couple of other really fun moments. One of the things that we focus on is personal development, both of our head office support team and of our franchisees. And I believe it part of our role in this journey of just working together to help people just become better at something, right? And I've certainly become better at lots of things by working with interesting individuals. And so we had a franchise owner, and one of the things that she had said to me was, "I'm very nervous about speaking in front of people." She says, "I don't know how you get up there and you talk in front of large groups of people." And I said, "Well, can we work on that together?" And she said, I don't think I'd want to. I said, "Well, I think you'd want to, but you may be afraid to." And long story short, we spent the next year doing private sessions and working together on this type of thing. And at the next conference, she stood up and did a presentation, and it was such an aha moment. So from a non-business but a people side of it, that was a really fun piece. And then the other, I think if I had to look back over all of this from a pure accomplishment standpoint, what this group did during COVID. As you can imagine, during COVID, our core business was doing weddings, taking people to the airport for family trips, and doing charter tours out to wineries and craft breweries. And so, as you can imagine, that went pretty quickly down to zero. But we experienced a 69% growth through COVID in revenue. And it was really tied to the franchise owners and all of the work that they did to follow the recipe. And what we said was, be very, very loud in a very noisy environment. And the noise was all the news around COVID and vaccinations, all these things. We said, be very loud on a different channel, on a different avenue. And so we did a number of things that were tied to that. And as a result, we ended up opening up mobile vaccination clinics. We were driving PSWs and nurses around. We ended up working for the federal governments on both sides of the border, picking up people at airports and getting them to COVID safety houses safely. We ended up doing PPE special part deliveries in the early days.
Oh, wow.
We reprogrammed the app and did grocery store deliveries to people who were unable to leave their home for safety purposes, and the list goes on and on. But all of this resulted in a sustainable and solid growth business through what was just a crazy time. And so now all this stuff is opened back up again, but we've kept some of this other stuff, right?
Okay.
So it just made for a really, really challenging and kind of a personally challenging period of time through COVID, but turned the business side of it into something that was really quite spectacular.
That's awesome. And again, for the listeners or the viewers, I should say, not listeners as well, but the viewers, really important that the leadership team made that shift, or the popular word pivoted, but you made that shift, as opposed to a lot of companies did what we here in Pennsylvania, we call deer in the headlights. They just got stunned. You could see that their messages didn't change. And of course, they were the ones that were really lagging or totally falling apart in the pandemic. And obviously your numbers prove out that what you guys did was absolutely the right turn that you needed to do. So, well, again, as I had shared with you off line here about who our audience are, who our audience is, I guess. Tell me who you're looking for. You're going to make an award once a week. So tell me who you're really looking for. Who's your ideal, most successful franchise partner?
Yeah, while we do, of course, have lots from different backgrounds and different levels of experience, I think the ideal franchise partner really has three core attributes, or three core pieces of experience. So first is they love people, and they're a good communicator as a result, but they really love engaging with their chauffeurs and with the customers. Our franchise owners are just completely tied to the customer journey. They've got teams of chauffeurs that are out providing the service itself. They've got head office who's there to support them in the recipe, the business model, et cetera. But really, they're talking with customers all day long, and that could be other businesses, it could be some government officials, but it could be consumers as well. So number one, people can see through you if you don't really like talking with them, and so we try and evaluate that with them in the very early days. The second piece is we want somebody that wants to grow a large sustainable business for themselves. We do turn down people who might be very, very well qualified, but actually might settle on a smaller revenue number for themselves because there's just too much business to be had out there. And so we're looking for somebody that says, the money isn't the only piece, but it is a very large measuring stick with this. And I am going to build a large sustainable business for myself and my family. Right. Yeah. And the third piece is we are absolutely evaluating every franchise prospect on being a cultural fit with the Driverseat family. Right. And so we spend a lot of time with our franchisees. We like to be part of their growth and part of their growth journey. They spend a lot of time with us. And so we're, people in the office don't always agree with one another. People in the franchise system don't always agree with one another, but we have to respect one another. And we have to work together to grow the business. And so we're looking for a good cultural fit. We're looking for great communicators who are passionate people. And we're looking for people who really want to truly grow their revenue line, because again, that's not the only part of success, but it is a pretty critical part of it.
Are there any last quick question on that? And then I do have one final question. Any markets that you've targeted, any areas of North America that if we have someone listening that's in those areas might want to jump right on this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got we're kind of in a bit of sellout space in parts of Canada now, but there are still some locations available. So I think if you're in a market, our smallest market's 30,000 people, our largest market's, a couple of million people. So it kind of fits a whole bunch of molds there. But right across North America, in particular, if you're in a market of 1 to 500,000 people, they're typically, not always, but typically they're an underserviced market. So if they're a well-serviced market in the shuttle business, we still want to be there because we can still be an absolute winning player there. But if they're underserviced, the growth just comes that much faster. And so I think that the important thing here, we know that we've got lots of opportunity, lots of runway ahead of us with the growth that we're experiencing right now. That'll fill up some of that space, but we still have lots of space to go. And somebody's just going to want to be part of that journey. It's just part of the fun of it.
Yeah, and that's a nice, in the States anyway. That's a very nice market space.
Sure.
You're not looking for the LAs or the Chicagos or the New York Cities kind of thing, or I'm sure you would not turn somebody down, but you're looking for I don't know how many cities in those markets or towns in those markets would fit. So
2,140.
There we go. There we go. All right. Last question. Is there anything that we haven't talked about, anything I haven't asked, and it's really something that you would want to share again with either people looking for a business for themselves or someone turning their brand into a franchise model? Anything, last thoughts that you'd want to share?
Yeah, I think for both of those parties, this actually is all about the journey. And so it's so interesting, right? 70 or 70+% of people want to be entrepreneurs. Only 7% of people are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's a quantum leap. I did it. I moved from a very high paying corporate position into becoming a franchisee because I loved the work I was doing, but I just wanted something different. I wanted a balance of life, and I wanted to work locally. And I would never have not done that now, looking back. And so I get it, but it is about part of this is about the journey. And so the revenue and the work that you do is super important, but it's not what happens every single day. That's just the task. It's the people that you meet and it's the experiences that you get to be part of. For the franchisors, franchising, in my opinion, is just a wonderful way to grow a business, and I love it. I wouldn't do it any other way. But it's not for everybody. If you are not a people person, if you don't want to be coaching franchise partners, if you don't want to be, to some degree, sometimes we're their uncle, and sometimes we're their police officer, and sometimes we're their nurse. But at the end of the day, you're working with really, really bright people who are passionate about growing their business. And so if you want to try and control what they're doing instead of just advise, counsel, and help them grow what they do, then it might not be the right growth model for you, right? There's other growth models to go with. So yeah, part of this is just actually about the journey, right? It's about enjoying what you do every single day, and it's about understanding that the end game is just what it is. It's the end of the game.
Yep. No, I love it. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you're sharing. And that's a wrap. Thanks, everybody. Thanks again, Brian, for sharing with us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Don, thanks again for having us on. Really appreciate that.
You bet.